Welcome to the Flagrant 2 podcast. I am your host. It's announced that he's going to be one of the ambassadors for Basketball Without Borders. They're going to be in Angola. It's a summer camp. They've already had 1,200 different participants. They've taken a lot of credit since 2001, Basketball Without Borders, for helping deal with some of the regional conflicts, and especially with Yugoslavia and Greece. They try to use basketball to sort of bridge the cultural gap and help overcome some of the tension that's happening in those areas. And personally, as somebody who's been in debate, my whole life, and I know this is something that you've obviously been well versed in with your time in debate, it's kind of cool to see players who are willing to give back.
Oh yeah, I love it. I know Dikembe Mutombo is the NBA ambassador to that area, and they do a lot with Basketball with Borders. I think the program is great. I think any programs like that are great. I know FIFA has been trying to do a lot with that, with soccer for years. And I think for Americans, we just don't like soccer as much, unfortunately. But being able to give back anywhere in the world to do things to stave off conflicts and to help people understand that there's more going on in the world than just all of the violence and conflicts that we see in the news all the time, that people are still humans. They're not just terrorists or like starving children in Africa.
Yeah, and
and it also brings attention to those starving children and all of those other problems that they've got.
It brings money, attention, and education.
Exactly.
And education's huge in that area. It's cool to see Eric Bledsoe doing it. When I was talking to Earl Watson, he was talking about how he's seen Eric Bledsoe grow as a man and how he's really proud of the leadership qualities that he's been developing and exploring as he becomes a young leader at age 26. And I think this is just another sign of that. I'm excited to see Bledsoe involved in it. A lot of people may think he should be focused on basketball. He's coming back from injury. This is time away from the gym. But I'm sure he can hoop it up in Angola. That's the whole point. It's Basketball Without Borders. So hopefully he'll get his workout time in. And, I look forward to asking him about it in person because I'm sure it's going to be a very moving experience for him. And, he's a new dad. And so for him, that's something that, maybe not a new dad, but a young dad. And I think it's going to be really cool for him to give back. So
yeah, I think experiences like this are actually benefit the players a lot more than we might even recognize. And I think, first of all, we have to understand that there's more to life than basketball.
Exactly.
And while we like to pretend like basketball or football or whatever sport is, they're getting paid millions of dollars to play, should be their whole life. The reality is they should be doing more to give back to the community. And
Eric Bledsoe just, that's speeches in college where, I passed out envelopes that were pre-stamped to get people to donate the change in their pockets, and it was, buying goats for people in Africa or helping to build wells in towns. So it's something that's been close to my heart for a long time, and I thought it was something we should touch on because I'm proud as a fan of Eric Bledsoe for being one of the ambassadors and leading the way on that. So let's continue talking about Eric Bledsoe, but let's get to a little more basketball focus. Recently, Bradford Doolittle, who writes for ESPN, put out his list of the players that he thinks are going to bounce back this season.
Wow.
And, he had a specific criteria. He has 12 comeback candidates. They finished here are the three criteria pieces. They finished last season at 3 wins above replacement, or WARP. WARP, for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with the advanced statistic, it means wins above replacement player, which means how good a player is relative to the baseline average NBA player or replacement level player. Second, they were at least in their 4th NBA season because, it's hard to think of younger players as true comeback candidates, as Doolittle points out. And then the last one is that they have a 2016 shown projection to recover at least 2 of those missing wins above replacement from last season's shortfall. So they were projected to do better last year. They underachieved, but they're expected to at least make up those wins above replacement by 2. And just to give you an idea, wins above replacement for the NBA is a really interesting way to tell just exactly how valuable a player is on the court. Every statistic has its flaws, but this is a pretty good one. And the shown forecast was actually created by Kevin Pelton, who is going to be on this podcast when the Suns are in training camp. He confirmed with me yesterday, and we're going to be talking Suns and some of the different things going on with Suns training camp. But he created these projections to sort of show fans how a player is going to progress and what types of expectations based on modeling data from tons, thousands and thousands of other players just like them with similar recorded data and try to make projections about what they're going to do the following season. So, there is some heavy analytics in this. I really enjoy that part of it, and that's something that we try to do as much as we can here. So, number one, we'll get right into it. Anthony Davis. We're going to keep this short. Everyone's looking forward to seeing Anthony Davis play. Am I right?
Right. I mean, everyone was, well, maybe not everyone, but most people were really upset when he got injured. It takes away from the season, and it really, that's one of the premier players in the league. So watching him go down, it's never a fun thing to watch someone actually get injured. So seeing him out for that, he was projected to be a possible MVP candidate. I'm not sure how high I would rank him on the MVP rankings right now, but I'm looking forward.
No one would be surprised if he were in the top 5 by the end of the season. And he's trying to shoot threes. He only shot 32.4%, according to Doolittle's article. So he wants to improve that area. He sees it a plus 6.7 wins above replacement increase, which is just huge for any player. But that sounds like something that's not overwhelming for a player of Anthony Davis's caliber. Second, one of the most important players in last year's NBA Finals, Kyrie Irving, is his number 2 bounce-back candidate. Kyrie Irving, a lot of the trends that you're going to see with the players on this list is that they've been injured or that they've spent a lot of time on the bench. And so with Kyrie, he's never going to be more popular. He has probably more predicted hype than Anthony Davis because people just saw him play and he saw him hit a game-winning shot in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. So to call him bounce back doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but are you surprised that, he underperformed enough to be on this list?
I really don't think it's an underperformance for him as so much as it's he missed the first half of the season. So that's
true.
When we look at it, it's the same reason we look at Karl Anthony Towns. It's just it's very different in that perspective is that he missed the first half. So really I feel like his comeback was last year.
Sure.
So when we're looking just at pure numbers, what he's going to add to that team is going to make them even better. They're already the NBA champions, and I'm sure everyone is already predicting the Warriors and Cavaliers matchup again in the finals.
For sure. Absolutely. Well, Vegas is.
Who else is going to beat the Warriors? And with a healthy Kyrie, I don't see any team right now, unless there's some big trade and some things happen with like Boston maybe, that could end up.
And Boston could be good. They're going to be formidable, Boston, but they're not. Right. I don't think anyone is going to predict that LeBron doesn't make a seventh consecutive NBA Finals.
Especially
good Lord, I looked away from the microphone at Adam Jarvie, who, if you remember and listened to last week's podcast, is not only a member of the staff here at Boulders on Broadway, but also a basketball junkie. So if you hear a third voice chiming in, that's Adam for you guys.
Hey guys.
So the third person on the list is actually somebody who I'm very interested to see, Blake Griffin. And the reason I'm interested in seeing Blake is if he doesn't get back to full form, what does he look like? Because just 2 years ago, Blake Griffin was one of the best players in the NBA. And he has a late-level talent, but he doesn't seem to be – I was listening to a podcast on the way here with Nate Duncan and Danny LaRue, who I mentioned a lot on this, and they were talking about how just when you see Blake Griffin dunk a basketball.
You've seen Tim Duncan?
I think Tim Duncan dunks very rarely compared to Blake Griffin. But Blake Griffin's looking more like Tim Duncan these days when he dunks a ball is the point I'm trying to make. That Blake Griffin doesn't seem to have the same spring in his step. Now, he has a torn quad, which is kind of a weird injury. And so he's coming back off of that, so maybe we'll see some bounce back from him. What do you expect to see from Blake this year?
I think he'll put up good numbers, and I haven't seen him actually get to play or see what he looks like. And I know like quad injuries and some of those things would take a little bit longer to recover from, so he's probably playing a little bit more tentative right now. But I expect to see Blake in full swing by the beginning of the season. It's tough to actually see someone go out. What I'm actually more interested in is the potential like off season for next season and the potential trade rumors around.
The free agency 2017 list just came out. Kevin Pelton released his top 30 players for free agency, and it's a crazy list. We're going to be doing a podcast about that as well and talk about, because Ryan McDonough we're going to do a Suns focused free agency podcast, and Ryan McDonough just said, I want to say today or yesterday, that the Suns are going to look to be major players in 2017 free agency. Right. A lot about what this season's strategy is to keep flexibility, try to accumulate more assets for a very deep 2017 draft class, and then get into free agency, Blake Griffin will be possibly the best player
and
to change hands in free agency.
I think for sure, even looking one of the big pieces that I think the Suns could use, even though we picked up a lot of young power forwards like Marquise Chris and Dragon Bender, I think it would be extremely valuable if the Suns picked up someone, even in the trade before the trade deadline, like a Blake Griffin or a Boogie Cousins or someone like that.
Yeah.
Because that's that one piece that I think we're
Boogie
missing.
Cousins, don't tempt me.
I know Boogie's always risky.
Like I said, Boogie can. I'll do Boogie's laundry. I'll mow Boogie's lawn
That's
for
a lot
free.
of laundry. That's like 4 shirts per load.
Yes, and they're big shirts.
My concern with shopping around for power forwards, though, is it's also hard to find a power forward that's going to gel with the chemistry that the Suns are building right now. Like,
yeah, but you can't
Blake
have
Griffin and DeMarcus Cousins are both prone to technicals, tantrums, prima donna attitudes, trouble on and off the court,
and dunking on
coaches,
fools, and dunking on fools.
I mean,
and
that puts butts in seats, but that doesn't necessarily put wins in the slot.
Well, Blake Griffin's been a winner. I mean, he's been on very good teams and on the Clippers.
When he's behaving himself and he's on the court, yeah, totally.
Sure. And enough about Blake Griffin, but the point is I think that his season is going to be one of the most interesting to watch because the Western Conference is kind of wide open after the Spurs and Warriors, and the Clippers could end up the 3. The next person, Joakim Noah. I don't want to talk about Joakim Noah. Proof's going to be in the pudding. I think it's more likely.
Podcast talk about Joakim Noah.
Yeah, I think it's more likely that Joakim Noah had that one really good season where he was like one of the defensive players. I mean, he has the defensive player of the year.
He's a deep player.
That season I think was maybe an aberration, and that real Joakim Noah is the guy who is banged up, who is not particularly good at offense, not the elite passer that we saw before. But I don't think Noah's going to do very well. He played only 29 games last year.
I don't see him as standing out in any way, really.
It'll be interesting to see how they play him with Porzingis.
Right.
To see if they can be on the court together. Because that's going to require really good passing and spacing from Jeff Hornacek to make that happen.
Yeah.
So the next person on the list is Damari Carroll. Damari Carroll only played in 26 games for the Raptors last year. He's projected to increase his wins above replacement by 3.3. You know, Damari Carroll's kind of boring, to be honest with you. I think the Raptors massively overpaid for him, but then again, that contract looks better now than it did before. He only put up a 9.9 playoff PER, and a 9.9 player efficiency rating is really bad. So, you know, he didn't provide the value they expected defending wings. Right. He didn't provide the three-point shooting and volume that they were hopefully looking for throughout the season. Damari Carroll is going to be a good player, but, you know, I wouldn't be shocked if he underachieves this expectation.
Yeah, I don't think he's a good role player. I understand why they paid for him, but I really think that everyone is overpaid in general, and I don't think that
especially
there's
the
a
owners.
whole lot that's really interesting that's going on with the Raptors. So, yeah.
No, I mean the question is how many bad shots is DeMar DeRozan going to take, and maybe that's going to be something that a healthy Damari Carroll helps him be more efficient because he helps space the floor. So we'll see. Yeah. Damari Carroll could help them. You know, they obviously think he's going to do better. Now we're getting into the part, if you know anything about this podcast, that I'm really going to like. Time to talk about a couple Suns players. Number 6 on the list is Brandon Knight. You know, this points out that it's not shown either. It's Shaney, like Donka Shane. I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. So it's the Shaney doesn't really project much different for Knight per possession, but you know, he only played in, I want to say, 51 games last year.
52 is what I get.
52 games last year, missed 30 games. So Brandon Knight's a guy who can score 20 points a game. I mean, he was averaging almost 20 points a game last year. The question is, can he build chemistry within the offense and become a smooth operation piece of the offense? Because if the ball sticks when it hits his hands, they will just move him and get the ball moving.
And I think that's going to be one of the problems is figuring out how he fits into the Suns system.
I have him starting.
I have him starting too, but the question is like you said, is he just going to become a spot up shooter because really he's moving from the point guard to the shooting guard, and I think he's more of a natural shooting guard anyway. So it's just where he fits in, and really his shooting numbers aren't as good as I would like to see.
I love him as a sixth man.
Yeah, as a sixth man.
I do. I really think he's Jamal Crawford 2.0. I've said it multiple times. He has the ability to play either guard position. So if you bring him off the bench and you start Bledsoe and Booker, you take Brandon Knight and you spell whoever, let's say Bledsoe is being aggressive on defense because that's what Bledsoe does, and he picks up a quick foul or two. You can bring in Knight and not have a massive drop-off in offensive production. Now the defense between Bledsoe and Knight is
I don't think Barbosa is really an offensive. Is that much of a drop off? It does definitely change the offense-defense perspective, but
I think that
I like Barbosa's veteran leadership coming in. I like that number.
But I think Brandon Knight would take that spot. That's what I mean. I think Brandon. I think if you have in either way, if Booker is coming in and Booker is, he's young, they still want to bring him along more slowly. I don't think you're going to see Booker getting 35 to 38 minutes a night. I think he's going to be more between 27 and 32 minutes a night. And I see Brandon Knight and Eric Bledsoe and Devin Booker being on the court at the same time for the Suns. Right. I don't know how many minutes they'll play that lineup, but I think you'll see it early on to see if it works.
What I would actually like to see, speaking of that, is I would like to see Bledsoe and then Knight and Booker at a small three.
Yeah.
With Dudley and then possibly like a Tyson Chandler.
Or Alex Len, if Alex Len continues to improve.
Seeing how
even a Dragon Bender, I think, is going to develop into a stretch 5 candidate just because of his length.
Right. He's just got size, and that really stretches the floor. The question is going to be like,
Brandon Knight's only 25.
Chandler, where are we at in the middle of that?
Brandon Knight's only 25.
Yeah. So they've all got.
They're
all young.
This is the first year of his prime.
Team. Yeah. So, and hopefully he steps up and can do a lot more.
Can he stay healthy?
And again, can he stay
healthy? That's like the problem with every
That's
Sun.
the question with Bledsoe and Knight. And I know he said recently he actually really wants to stay with the Suns. He's looking forward to like more of a future with the Suns. And I understand that, especially being a young player and you've already been traded once.
Well, and he knows he's not going to get traded for at least, a month or two, so he better be on his best behavior. You don't want to seem like the disgruntled jerk. You can join us and interrupt us yourself. We do plan on eventually talking to fans. Like I said, we'll take a moment here since we're halfway through the list and just say fully, come to Boulders on Southern. It's great here, craft beer. Thursdays they have trivia from 6:30 to 8:30, free giveaways. It's always sponsored by a different brewery.
50% off cans on Thursdays.
50% off bottles and cans. Plus, if you mention the podcast, you get your first pint for $1. So no reason not to come down to Boulders on Southern. It's a great place. The local life is appealing. So Eric Bledsoe, I'm going to get through it one last time. Eric Bledsoe, difference maker. I don't see the Suns able to lose more than 50 games with Eric Bledsoe on the roster. Am I crazy?
I don't think so. I think, they won 23 last year, and I would say with Eric Bledsoe healthy, I know the wins are above replacement numbers. This is where they get kind of like weird and funky because they got him about a 3, which is probably spot on, but the reality is I see them winning 7 or 8 more games this season just because he's healthy, if he can stay healthy. Brandon Knight, I'd say, probably gives him another 2 or 3.
TJ Warren.
And then Ty Warren and
Tyson Chandler missed 16 games.
Getting into place.
Yeah.
And seeing how some of the other pieces come in. I think the leadership of Jared Dudley gives them a couple more games. So I think they're probably projected to win about 30 games this season. I wouldn't be surprised if they win 40. So
it wouldn't blow my mind. Sham, who is not at this table anymore, he walked away, but made fun of me to Kevin Pelton on Twitter, and Kevin Pelton said that only people in Phoenix think that. But I will say this. The last time Eric Bledsoe played more than 75 games, the Suns won 39 and 48 games. So the track record's pretty clear. All right, Eric Bledsoe, and we'll get to the idea of tanking potentially. I just wrote an article about, if the Suns truly want to go full tank and they want to bail out on the season and try to just get the highest draft pick possible, what they need to do is trade Eric Bledsoe. And that kills me because I really like Eric Bledsoe. He's my favorite Suns player. But, he's going to yield the biggest package in return.
That's the thing.
His contract is still really good, so
that would be the ultimate display of tanking, and I think that would be the worst thing that the Suns could possibly do. And I know, like we both agree that it's not necessarily bad to lose games so that you can get, especially in this draft pick, there's supposed to be a lot of really great players coming up.
Yeah,
next
Chad
year.
Ford's first mock draft has the Suns taking Dennis Smith,
Right.
A point guard at the number 4 pick, and he is allegedly on the athletic level of John Wall and Russell Westbrook, and is supposed to be a monster, which is why they say...
Which is why you might get rid of Bledsoe.
Exactly, and so there's a lot of point guard... It's a point guard heavy draft, to put it lightly.
In Phoenix, I think the move of getting rid of Bledsoe would be so crushing to the atmosphere in Phoenix that, like, we would just... The fans would just walk away.
Yeah, but you could appease the fans and just tell them, look, we're going to trade Bledsoe, we're going to start Brandon Knight and Devin Booker. Now Devin Booker's in the starting lineup, Suns fans, so you can calm the hell down. Everything's okay. We'll just run Devin Booker 38 minutes a game. You'll be psyched.
Nobody likes the 76ers.
Yeah.
They fucking hate the way that they're doing
People
that
in
shit,
Philadelphia like them.
Right, but they hate that they're tanking that like this way too. They have so many young players, and they're still tanking. They're still just like not even playing them. They hold them back.
I would agree, but on Valley of the Suns, I'm telling you, people have been saying flat out they don't care about the veterans. They don't want additional veterans. They don't care how good they are. People said they wouldn't trade Eric Bledsoe for Russell Westbrook. People said they wouldn't trade Dragon Bender or Marquise Chris for Russell Westbrook.
Well, those people are stupid.
These are just foolish people. But their whole point is that Russell Westbrook doesn't make the Suns a championship caliber team is the argument they would make. Mm-hmm. And the timeline's still so far off that Russell Westbrook will leave before they ever reach the point that they'll be able to be in the championship. So we talked a lot about the Suns, a little more than the other players on this list because, well, this is mostly a Suns podcast, but we're going to move on to Kyle Korver. Now, I don't know about Kyle Korver. He's one of those guys that his previous career statistics would indicate maybe he's due for bounce back coming off injury, but he's getting older. He's going to be 36 years old this year. I don't ever see players regressing upward or back toward their career averages at this point. It's just as likely that he continues a massive dip.
And I think players like Kyle Korver are in a very different position than some of the like star players like Anthony Davis in a sense. Because Kyle Korver is a specialty player.
And that's where he derives all of his value, is from three-point shooting.
So the fact that when you get injured, if you lose a step or you lose any of those pieces, and while you might still be able to shoot, if you've lost that step, you're not going to be able to get that shot off nearly as well. So what made Ray Allen so great, and Ray Allen has talked about making a comeback, which to me is
Ray Allen's going to be on the Warriors by the end of the year.
Right. He's got to get that one more ring. So... what made him so great was be able to come off the screen so quickly, and that freed him up. But he still kept that step. And I don't see Kyle Korver as being able to keep a step like that, to open himself up for some of those shots, even away from the ball.
White players age worse than black players. I mean, seems to be a fact about the universe.
It's not the same athleticism that
I'm
that
sorry.
we see.
I'm not trying to go full Jimmy the Greek right now, but I just want to say I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable doubting a white 36-year-old far easier, much quicker than I am. 36-year-old Ray Allen.
John Stockton, dog.
John Stockton, very good. John Stockton didn't have to play the wing in the NBA, but I do agree that
left the Suns and he was terrible.
36 is a rough age for white people. So the next player on the list is Brandon Wright. I know Mike's like, I'm 36.
One more year.
So Brandon Wright, former Phoenix Sun, he's one of these guys who consistently is the analytics darling. He's somebody who really is an efficient player, shoots most of his shots around the rim, really good rolling to the basket in the pick and roll. He's projected to do better. He only played 12 games last year for Memphis, I think that's another reason that Memphis is going to be good. I see Memphis being a top 4 seed in the West. Brandon Wright coming back, the addition of Chandler Parsons, which adds 3-point shooting. It gives them the necessary depth that I really like for them to make a run at one of the best spots.
I was actually really upset with the trade of Brandon Wright.
I did not like the Brandon Wright move, but
we'll see how Brandon Knight plays out still. I think Brandon Wright will be a great addition for Memphis. That if he's actually healthy and can stay healthy, it'll bring one more level to their game.
Yeah, number 10 on this list is Marc Gasol.
Which is
so one of them needs to stay healthy. If both of them stay healthy, This has them at adding approximately 5 wins above replacement between the two of them. If you're a team there was a time when Memphis was just hanging on by a thread, and they still made the playoffs despite being devastated by injury. And they looked okay. I mean, Mike Conley, I don't think he's worth $150 million, but he's a really good point guard. He's defensively very good. Marc Gasol defensively is very good. Brandon Wright's a good defender. I mean, they have a lot more depth than they did before. And if Chandler Parsons is healthy, maybe they'll have the 3-point shooting they've lacked. And that could be a big difference maker for this team because it's gonna make them more efficient.
The one thing I've always said about Memphis is I always thought for the last couple of years, I'm like, man, the Suns should be beating the crap out of this team. But the fact is Memphis grinds and they play hard knock basketball with players like Marc Gasol, and they find ways to
Zach
win.
Randolph.
And with Zach Randolph, and when you add players like Chandler Parsons, Mike Conley into that mix, they know how to put things together and put things in place to win.
And that type of basketball is more effective in the playoffs.
They're going to be good, yeah.
NBA analysts always talk about how the game slows down in the postseason.
Right.
And that even statistics bear out that there are fewer possessions traditionally in the postseason. So when you have a guy like Marc Gasol, it's actually interesting. I think Marc Gasol is going to be fun to watch this year just because has the league passed him by in the last year? Because 2 years ago he was effective, but maybe not as effective as he was 3 years ago. And I'm interested to see if his skills are going to continue to be valuable. He may be one of those candidates to stretch the floor more. I bet you see him shooting more from distance. It wouldn't blow my mind if he took a career high in 3-pointers this year, just because I think he has the ability to shoot decently, and he's always shown off a good mid-range game. That sort of seems to be how they're trying to expand it. We saw it from Al Horford, who shot less than half a three per game for 10 years and then just decided last year to start shooting 3.5 a game. So
I'm always amused by the big guys who should be sticking in the mid range, in my opinion, moving out and shooting the threes. Sometimes it can be really successful. Draymond Green has